Hello friends, this is Bilal Heather, and in this video part we are actually going to learn about loops. And what are loops? What is a loop? Basically, a loop is when you want to do something repeatedly over and over again. Okay, so let's say I have an array, and inside this array I have some user names. Okay, so let's say the first user is Bilal, the second user is Heather, third user is maybe Steve, fourth user is maybe um, David, right? So I have a list, or I have an array of users here, and let's say I have an array where there are not 4 members instead, but there are 1000 members, or 1000 elements in an array, and I want to print them all in the console here. So the normal approach which we learned in the previous videos will be to do console.log, and you say users 0, then you insert another console log, then you put user 1 and user 2 and user 3, and you have to do it 1000 times. Okay, so let's say there are 1000 users there, and you need to do this 1000 times, which is a painful task for you, which will be a painful task for you. So instead we have loops, and using loops we can do this very easily. There are actually quite a few loops. um, let's actually go and list them all. We'll come back to this in a moment. So let's I'm going to only list them in here. We'll learn them one by one in upcoming videos. So the first one is for loop. The second one is for in loop, right? We're just um, listing the loops here. Okay, we are not learning about them now. There is a while loop, and there is another one called do while loop. So we have these 1 2 3 4 5 loops, and depending upon the use case we will use one of them. Okay, so for now we'll just learn to use for loop, and in upcoming videos we'll learn um, all of them basically. So how do you use a loop? You start with the keyword for, then you put the parenthesis and the body like this. Okay, so whatever you will put inside this body, it will be executed again and again. How many times? That's what we'll specify here. So we say let I equal 0. Okay, so we start from the 0, then we will continue looping this until I is less than 4. Okay, so in our case, our users array, it has 4 elements, so we need to do I is less than 4. Okay, then we do I plus plus. So we increment the loop after every single iteration. Okay, so and then what we can do here, we can do console.log and users, and in the index part of it we'll put I here. Okay, so now let's go ahead and explain a little more. So we start with the value of I being 0. So the first time the loop when this execution starts, this loop will start. When it's going to start, the I will be 0. Then it's going to check the condition if I is less than 4. So in our first case I is 0, so it is indeed less than 4, so it's true. Then it's going to execute whatever is written inside here. Okay, so it's going to increment the I after executing this part. Okay, so what's going to happen is it's say I equals 0. It's going to check if I is less than 4. If it's true, then it's going to execute whatever we have written inside it. Okay, whatever we have written inside the body of it. And after executing this part here, it's going to increment the value of I. So now the I is 1. So now it's going to check, okay, now 1 is less than 4, which is true. Then it's going to go inside this for's body, and it's going to execute this code once again, and it's keep doing that until this condition results false. If when this condition results false, then this for loop is going to terminate, and then the control goes outside of the for loop, and it continues executing whatever is written after the for loop. Okay, so that's how it works. And notice that we are using I here instead of writing a constant number in here, so we are writing I. So the first time this loop runs, I will be 0, so it's going to console log this value. The next time this loop runs, I will be 1, so it's going to print this thing, and then this thing, and then this thing. So that's how this loop works and it's very useful with arrays. So now let's execute this code and let's see what we get. So I executed the code, and you can see that we got the first one, the second one, third, fourth. So that's how a loop works. So it is very useful when we want to do something repeatedly, and it's more useful with arrays. So let's say you have 1000 things in an array, right? And you want to print them all on screen, or you want to display them on a website. Basically, if you have 1000 posts, for example, and you want to display them in a browser window, then you can use this for loop and display all the posts one by one on the browser. Okay, those things we'll learn in future, but for now we are just learning how to use a for loop. So let's actually create another example here, and let's print hello world 4 times. Okay, so we are not limited to just using it with arrays. We can use it for anything basically. So let's say we want to print something 4 times, so we can do console log hello world, right? So this loop is going to execute 4 times, and it's going to print hello world 4 times, right? So that's how for loop works, and it's very convenient. As I said earlier, that if we want to do something repeatedly over and over again for a lot of times, basically in that case this loop can help you a lot. So I guess this is all for now about for loop. In the next part we will learn to use for in loop, and we'll see how that can be useful for us. So see you in the next part.